In '92, our brewmaster, Greg Hall, who's also the son of the owner, John Hall, we founded the brewery in '88, and Greg, worked through the ranks, started out washing kegs, he became a brewmaster, really started pushing the envelope with beers, and he met Fred Noe, who's the great-grandson of the founder of Jim Beam Distillery, at a whiskey fest, some sort of whiskey event. I think it was a whiskey fest here in Chicago, and asked for some barrels. So Fred Noe sent him some Jim Beam barrels, and we started to put our Imperial Stout in them and see what happened. And it was such a unique thing to do at the time. In '94, he started doing it in '92, and he submitted a Bourbon County Stout in '94 to the Great American Beer Festival in Denver, and it got refused because nobody could figure out what to do with it. He entered it as a stout, and they tasted it and said, no way. And now barrel-aged beers is not only a category, there's subcategories in there. So it's a pretty exciting thing that we've been doing this for so long.
Bourbon County's it's pretty simple, but at the same time it's very, very labor intensive to do Bourbon County Stout. Amount of grain that we have to use to sort of hit, when we're talking brewing, usually we refer to the amount of sugar in wort. Wort is the sweet liquid we ferment to make beer. We refer to the amount of sugar in terms of degrees Plato. Most beers come in between 12 and 15 degrees Plato, sort of a standard beer, which will end up about 5 to 6% alcohol. Bourbon County Stout, we need to get that up to near 30 degrees Plato, which is basically unheard of. In order to get that amount of sugar into the beer, we actually have to conduct 2 separate mashes. Mashes we do really overload our water tun. We can't fit any more grain inside the mash tun or the water. So it's really a pain to make, and you have to do a lot of it by hand. But it's a really special thing that we get to do. Something we look forward to on the brewing staff every year. Even though it's so difficult, it's a lot of fun.
Stick your head right in there.
To make a little bit of hot for rare.
That's regular, unfortunately, not the rare. But see, there's still Bourbon County on the bottom. You even lose a little bit because you can't get it all out of the barrel. It just has a little bit of sawdust from when I used to saw it.
Even more so than
Go ahead and stick your hands in there. And then you'll see this char on the barrel as well. Some of the flavors that come out of a barrel, obviously that char layer is going to add like a charcoaly flavor, very dark roasty flavor like coffee, like dark chocolate. Some of the things that I get from the deeper layer, that bourbon layer, are caramel flavors, brandied cherry flavors, toasted coconut flavors, toffee, bourbon obviously is a flavor in there. I mean, there's a lot of things that this beer extracts out of that wood, and those are some common flavors that we find in the beer. When you talk about bourbon a lot, and I love bourbon, there's like masculine flavors like leather and wood and tobacco, and like feminine flavors like vanilla and flowers and honey, and masculine flavors like smoke and blanket. I think of grandma and grandpa. If you want to, you can actually pick the flakes off in here. I mean, it comes off in big sheets, and usually there's a pile of them at the bottom. And it's the level to which they char it. It's usually 1 through 4, level 1 through 4, and 4 obviously being the most amount of burning they do. It's going to give those.
And what that does, there's a reason why they do it. So it caramelizes the sugar in the oak barrel. So right underneath the char, there'll be like this red layer where the sugars are caramelized, and as the spirit is forced in and out of the grain of the wood over time and the season as it expands and contracts, it'll absorb the color from those sugars and the flavors, and that's absorbed into the liquid.
We came up with a couple that we really, really loved. One of those was vanilla, and one of those was coffee. So the first one we're going to taste today is vanilla. that uses Uganda vanilla beans. They're all fresh vanilla beans cut and scraped by hand. I think it was 40 vanilla beans per bourbon barrel. It was like 20 odd pounds of vanilla. And myself and another helper literally spent 4 days by hand scraping up vanilla beans to make this beer. You guys better like it because it's complete, even my ass to make. But we really enjoy it. We think it has really nice mellowness, smoothness of palate, and a really delectable French vanilla character.
Okay, excellent.
I really like this.
Okay, so is everyone ready for the coffee?
Yes. One of the things about working with Intelligentsia, working with all of our partners, is that these are agricultural products. They change over time, and there's lots of variation in there. So we sat down with them after we made this beer, so we shared a bottle or two with them, and started tasting coffees for next year.
And they're so close that we can get the coffee is roasted on a Tuesday, it's bagged on a Wednesday, we use it on Thursday. It's like less than a week from the time it was green beans, whole beans, roasted for us, ground, and then we use it. It's pretty exciting because we got our hands on, how many of those barrels?
We had 48 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle.
Yeah, so 48 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle barrels. And if you guys are bourbon drinkers like I am, that's like a seriously wonderful opportunity because that bourbon is phenomenal. So that bourbon sat in those barrels for 23 years before we even get to touch them. So it's pretty exciting because that bourbon is so special. And then we went ahead and aged our beer in it for almost 2 years. So this is a super duper yummy experience.